The series name is What If Naruto Was in Percy Jackson Universe. So let's start the series. In a large open area that had massive gouges and destruction all around. Two people and a massive creature were still fighting, causing even more destruction. When will you give up, boy? Your army is slain and I already have the 10 tails formed. Just face it, I won. Now just surrender and let the 10 tails absorb the rest of the Kyuubi, and then I can begin my plan for a new year, using the remaining people on this planet. Madara ordered Naruto with a wicked smirk. Never. They all gave their lives to defeat you, and I will not let them down. We already destroyed your undead army, all of the Zetsu clones, and even all of your other pawns. Hell, even Sasuke and Obito are dead somewhere in this battlefield. Now all that is left to do is to stop you. Naruto told him with a confident smile. Ha, quit being foolish. Even if they are all gone, I still have the almighty Jubi and my almighty Taijutsu. Well, all you have is the exhausted Kyuubi and your own pitiful skills, Madara told him with a smirk on his face that changed to slight surprise when he noticed Naruto's eyes color got darker and shaded by his hair more than normal. That is what you think? Naruto mumbled coldly, then went through several hand signs to form what he knew would be one of his last jutsus. Dead man's Shinigami, he mumbled out in a tone of voice that made even Madara shiver slightly as a chill went down his spine. Naruto then slammed his palms onto a tail of the beast's tail that just tried to crush him after rolling to the side. Suddenly a large array of seals began to cover the beast, starting from its tail until it finally covered its head. The seal also seemed to paralyze the 10 tail who was trying to move away from Naruto. Though all of its efforts ended up being useless as the symbols finished covering him, making Naruto smirk. What are you doing? Jubi, get away from him, and Madara began to order but was interrupted by Naruto calling out seal loud enough to echo around the land. After which Madara could only watch as the body of the Jubi quickly was sucked into a smaller seal that appeared on Naruto's chest where his heart was. What did you just? Madara asked, stunned for several moments, but then regained his smirk again. You just wasted your life, boy. That soul-sealing jutsu only works while the being it is placed on is living, and you won't be for long. He told Naruto, knowing Naruto just sacrificed his life. Meaning that without a doubt he won. That is where you were wrong, bastard. You see, that is how it was with the Reaper Death Seal, but ever since I became a seal master, I looked at the seal that cursed me for my entire life, and began to memorize every single part of it. And with that knowledge I was able to use it to create what is said to be impossible, a permanent seal. You're lying, that is impossible. It is just a foolish myth. Madara growled out, annoyed. No, it is not. You see, all you need is massive amounts of chakra, which I have plenty, and to surrender your soul to the Shinigami. Then you are able to seal one thing for all of eternity to your very soul. So, the Jubi is gone for good, but don't think I haven't forgotten about all the sins you have done. Naruto told him with a glare. He then lifted his hands into the air and began to concentrate. Thanks to how much chakra is in the air, let me show you one last surprise before you go to hell with me. Naruto growled at him with a smirk, then began to focus on the world around him like he normally did to gather natural chakra. The chakra, both normal and corrupt, soon began to collect into a massive ball floating above his head. It rested only a few inches away from his palms and slowly became larger. Though what Naruto didn't notice was the fact that both the light and shadows from around him seemed to be sucked into the ball he created as well, until finally he stopped the collection and had a massive ball at least 10 yards in diameter above him. His smirk became larger as he looked at Madara with ice-cold eyes, as he brought his hands down and controlled the ball to move towards Madara. Now let's die together, bastard. Naruto told him, then made one last hand sign, and the ball exploded, the ball just like how an explosive seal would activate. He then yelled out, Dark World Destruction. As soon as he released it, Madara looked on in terror as the ball expanded and blew up like a tailed beast bomb on steroids. The blast was massive and could be seen from miles away by the closest safe house for civilians who silently watched in awe, as the massive black explosion expanded for several moments, then disappeared. Though at the battlefield there weren't any bodies, just a massive crater. For a while Madara tried to survive through sacrificing his eye, but when he came back, he found the explosion still going on. Thus he could do nothing but feel the chakra burn away his body. When civilians saw the explosion had ended and then heard nothing for several hours, they figured that the war was over in what could only be called a small victory for them. So, they then began to build up a new life with the small amount of people left on the world. They worked hard but didn't have many ninjas anymore, so they only could focus on building the village back up by using the various scrolls ninja left and what they already knew how to do. Though there were several genin that survived as well due to not being allowed to fight in the war. But they were far too inexperienced to recreate the ninja world to what it once was. So, through time the people found the ninja fighting styles and jutsu became so watered down that things they began to invent became much better alternatives. Even the samurai were slowly losing their strength as well, due to their master swordsman being key as well in the world war. So, the world of ninja was truly over, and a new beginning was just being formed. Naruto slowly began to wake up only to see what seemed to be an endless amount of darkness around him. So, this is what hell looks like. Well, I guess I probably should get used to it. Naruto mumbled depressed to himself and simply sat down to meditate when all of a sudden the room changed to what seemed like a throne room, but it was too dark to be sure. No, my child, you aren't in what you called hell or won't be for long anyways. A voice told Naruto that seemed to come from all around him. Oh, and why is that, seeing as I know I died after those jutsus, and there is no way a ninja can go anywhere, but hell, seeing as we all are killers? Naruto questioned. No, you aren't dead yet, child, merely recovering. Your story won't end here. So, you are going to be sent to a new world that you will not be familiar with. It is there that you will begin your new life. Though before I send you off. The voice told Naruto with several pauses, but in the end launched a ball of light at the ninja, who couldn't react fast enough to dodge, thanks to still being groggy. So, the light hit him and quickly entered through his chest. He then felt it flow through his entire body until he began to glow, and then a massive amount of smoke seemed to come out of his skin, until he could no longer see his own body. Cough cough, what cough was that? Naruto asked in a higher pitch that he quickly noticed. Ha, what happened to my voice? Naruto questioned until a mirror formed from what seemed like the shadows next to Naruto, showing him something that shocked him even more. Why do I look like I am 8? Naruto asked, utterly confused and shocked. I had to de-age you because the time is different where you are going, so your age needed to change to match it. Also, I implanted the most commonly used language of the world you are going to into your mind as a second language that you can now speak fluently. Now prepare, for I will be sending you into the new world soon. The voice told the shocked and now young Naruto. Though Naruto didn't have much time to think about it or respond, for soon enough, a bright hole was made above his head and sucked the young blonde into it. Though he found his eyes closing soon after he entered the hole as the dream world captured his mind again. Plus New York City, near where Percy's family lives, plus. Ugh, my head hurts. Naruto complained soon after he woke up for the second time. Though this time he was in a room that was lit up by an open window that leaked sunlight directly to the part of the bed that where his head originally laid. Seeing this, Naruto quickly looks at a mirror he found and saw that he still was a small child. Honk honk. Naruto heard and quickly rushed to the window to see moving contraptions that he somehow knew were cars on the road. Man, so that was all real, Naruto mumbles, then put a hand over his chest where the seal formed. But much to his relief he felt his heart still beating, showing that he was at least truly alive. He then looked around the room he was currently in and noticed a note that was placed on the dresser near the bed. Dear Naruto, I forgot to mention the fact that I put the basic knowledge of the new location you are in into your head as well. Also, I have given you access to a common fitness center area that is located all around the world. You simply have to go to one of these buildings and talk to the receptionist. They will let you have access for free no matter what for the rest of your life. I have also made it so that no one there would question why a young kid would be able to do the things you can as well, and that they would have many things that will help you get back your normal strength. So, train to your heart's content, though I suggest you wait on practicing jutsu and using weapons again until you reach a camp that I am sure you will find later on. So, besides that, know that I have set up a bank account with enough money to allow you to live happily for several years at a local bank as well. Do well in this new location, my son, and know that both me and your mothers will always love you. P.S. Make sure that you keep your powers hidden from others. I may have made it so that you can train in the gym, but I am unable to help in other locations. P.S. Make sure you get to know as much as you can about Greek mythology. I am sure that it will be useful for you. See you soon. Your father, Minato Namicus. So father wants me to be able to live a new life then. Well, I guess I might as well use it, though I have no idea how he did this, though it is going to suck to have to go through puberty again anyways. I wonder why he wants me to learn about this Greek mythology so much. Naruto thought as he began to get used to his new life, though still wasn't too sure if the sender was actually his dead father. Minato, sitting in his throne room alone, a single blonde-haired man was simply staring at a wall lost in thought. I know I wanted to give Naruto the chance to live happily, but should I have just told him the truth? I mean, even with the prophecy I still did a lot more than I needed to. How much more would it be just to tell him everything? I just hope he can forgive me if he finds out about everything. Though I hope maybe one day we can become a true family. Minato thought and daydreamed about what it would be like to have a normal family with a small smile on his face. Plus time skip, 2 years, Naruto plus. Naruto has now lived in his home for quite a while, and has grown used to his new life. He now spends a lot of time training, but also has had a clone be tutored by a homeschool teacher he hired, so that he could eventually go into school to get a proper job in this world. But he wasn't about to allow himself to go into unfamiliar territory until he felt he could defend himself decently. Naruto also found himself to enjoy walks around New York City just looking at all the sights. During one of these walks he met Percy Jackson and eventually the rest of his family. He found all of them to be nice besides Percy's stepdad, who he quickly began to despise. But other than him, Naruto happily became friends with them, and made sure to spend some time with Percy. Though when they did hang out, Naruto swore that every now and then he could catch Percy's mother looking at him, seeming to know that he was in some way different, but never said anything. Also, in these 2 years he also made a friend with a girl named Amy, who turns out to be an orphan as well, though unlike him, she had 2 girls that hardly looked above 18 as her adopted parents. Now they weren't best friends by any means, seeing as she always seemed to be slightly on edge around him. He saw that both of her parents seemed to react the same way. Though he was used to people being on edge all the time back in Konoha, so he happily ignored this abnormality and counted her as a good friend. Though he wasn't able to visit her all the time, seeing as her family left on trips, often that most of the time lasted quite a while. But eventually they always ended up coming back to their house like nothing ever happened. As he thought about her, he couldn't help but think about the first time he met her. Plus flashback plus. A 9-year-old Naruto was calmly sitting at the base of a tree that was outside of the city. He found that it was much more peaceful to relax outside of the large city. For even while the parks were good, he just couldn't find his inner peace, while surrounded by the smells and sounds of the city. He currently was simply resting his back against one of the trees, watching the clouds float by when a deer walked out of the forest close to him and started grazing near him. And, well, I have no idea what is around Nick in my story. There is a forest relatively close by. Now Naruto's attention was on the deer that calmly ate the grass close to him, without seeming worried about him at all. So, he slowly grabbed some granola from a snack bag he brought with him and held it out in his palm. Now the deer of course smelled this and grew curious about the new food, but was hesitant about coming closer to a human, making it freeze just looking at Naruto, who calmly stared back at it. Finally, after a minute or so, it seems that the deer made a decision and walked over to Naruto and ate the granola out of his hand. It then seemed to be at peace around him enough to lay down next to him. It didn't even seem bothered when Naruto began to pat its soft fur. Naruto was of course curious about why a wild animal would do such a thing, but partially explained it by the fact that he was a sage, at least back when he was at a proper age for the training. But after a while he figured that seeing as there was no danger to simply stop worrying about it, and instead just enjoy the moment. After a couple of minutes he noticed a girl come out of the forest, seeming to be looking for something until her eyes landed on Naruto and the deer. When she saw this, she said nothing, but Naruto could see her eyes widen a small amount, showing that she seemed surprised, but the emotion was quickly hidden. The girl then began walking over to them, making the deer wake up and look at her. "Hi, thank you for finding my deer. You see, me and my family watch over a lot of wild animals that are in trouble in a house that is a little bit away from the city. A spot where this gal was calmly wandering around until she escaped through the pen we had her in." The girl told Naruto, but he noticed that she seemed to be tense the whole time while taking to him. "No problem, she was just keeping me company while I sat here. By the way, my name is Naruto, what is yours?" Naruto asked kindly, but kept his guard up just in case. "Oh my name is Amy, and come to think of it, why were you— Haha, yeah, I know I'm a bit strange, but it is nice just to enjoy nature out here just like my little friend here," Naruto told her while petting the deer's head. "Though if I was being honest, I prefer seeing it when the moon is out a bit more. I mean, everything seems to just have more of a radiance when they are covered in darkness, and only visible by the light glow of the moon." Naruto told her, momentarily daydreaming about his fondness of spending a good amount of time looking at the night sky. "I completely understand. I mean, the moon probably is my favorite thing to see as well. It is much better than the sun after all," Amy told Naruto, sounding proud for a moment to Naruto for some odd reason. "Anyways, I will just take this troublemaker home now. Nice seeing you, Naruto," Amy told him, though seemed to force the word nice out as she called over the deer that got up and began to walk towards her. But suddenly it stopped and looked back at Naruto before walking back over to him, causing Amy to look surprised yet again, while Naruto laughed. "Well, looks like my friend wants me to come with," Naruto told her jokingly and got up. "Come on, I will walk with you to the place so she will follow. Seeing as she seems to want to ignore you for some reason," Naruto told her with a smile on his face, which she returned after a few moments. "Okay." So, after that was agreed upon, they both walked for a little bit in silence, before they saw a nice small building that had a fenced-in area that already had several animals inside happily grazing. They both then walked to the gate and watched as the deer seemed to understand and walk itself into the pasture, thus leaving Naruto and Amy alone. "Well, I guess I will see you some other time," Naruto told her with a smile at Amy. "Yeah, bye," Amy told him and waved as he left, already thinking about the strange feeling she felt around Naruto, but didn't worry about it too much. She then walked into the house where two of the girls were sitting around a table eating a meal. Plus flashback end. After that, Naruto and Amy met several times. During these meetings, Amy gradually got used to Naruto, and then began to seem to actually enjoy the time they spent together. But whenever they entered the city, she went back to being tense. Something that Naruto found strange, but figured it was because of all the people around her. Still, he didn't mention it at all, figuring that if she wanted to talk to him about it, she would bring it up herself. Though this would be one of their last meetings for a while, sadly, seeing as Naruto decided to finally go to school. Mainly due to the fact that he hated to see his friend's depression whenever Percy brought up that he was going to a school that would keep him away from everything he cared about. So, in order to support his friend, Naruto figured he would enroll as well. After all, he was planning on joining a school eventually anyways. "So Amy, before you have to leave today, I have to tell you something," Naruto told the girl that was walking down the block with her. "What is it?" she asked, curious. Well, I have to tell you that I finally have decided to go to school," Naruto told her, rubbing the back of his head nervously. Oh, but I thought you enjoyed being homeschooled so that you had more free time. Yeah, I do like the freedom it gives me, but I found out that Percy was going to a school where he isn't gonna know anyone. So, I decided to support my friend and go with him. Naruto told her. Well, that's kind of you to support him. Amy told him with a small smile. So, we will just hang out for a bit less. About that, the school actually is a ways away from here. So I actually won't be able to hang out like this for a while. Naruto told her with a frown. For a while he was sad about not being able to spend time with her. He also was determined to be there for all of his friends. But right now he was so distracted that he failed to notice that Amy stopped walking until he was a few feet away from him. Oh, it's okay. You need to support the people you care about. She told him, but failed to keep the frown off of her face. But I don't mean to just stop seeing you. Naruto told her as he walked back to her and gently grabbed her shoulders. You are an important friend to me as well, and I have no plans to ever abandon you. Naruto told her, looking directly into her eyes, making her gain a small blush due to embarrassment. Oh. Thank you, Naruto. You're a good friend as well. Amy told him, stuttering a bit, making Naruto realize how close he got to her, and began to blush as well. Sorry, he told her, taking a step back. Anyways, I wanted to ask if there was any way we could keep in touch when we can't go on these walks. Like an email or letter or something. Naruto suggested. Yeah, I think we can set that up. But my family isn't really fans of technology, so how about you send letters to our house, and I'll read them when we come back to the house. Though you will need to send me the address I can send you messages back to as well, of course. She told Naruto, making him smile. Great, and as soon as I am able to, I promise we will start our regular walks and meetings. Naruto told her, seeing as he would honestly miss his friend. After all, it was hard to find many friends that cared about nature as much as he did. But the truth finally out, Naruto felt like a large weight was lifted from his shoulders, as they continued to enjoy the rest of their time together, until it was finally time for them to go their own ways. So, they both stood in front of the very tree they first met each other. So, I guess this is goodbye for now. Naruto told Amy. Yeah, she told Naruto, honestly feeling a bit sad. Well, I'll make sure to write to you as soon as I get my school address. Naruto told her, feeling a bit awkward. After all, he never really experienced a moment like this. Yay. Amy told Naruto, fidgeting a bit. Then all of a sudden she gave him a quick hug that only lasted a few seconds. I hope you do good in school. Amy told him with an embarrassed blush before beginning on her way home. Though by the time Naruto got over his surprise by her sudden action, she was gone. After leaving Naruto, Amy was currently fighting off the blush she had from her embarrassment. But why did I do that? He's going to think I like him or something, but I just wanted to show him that I truly cared. Amy thinks, seeing as she honestly was thinking and just acted when she gave Naruto a hug. But I do hope that he writes me as soon as he can. I am going to miss our regular meetups. She thinks as she enters her house. Plus time skip towards end of the year plus. And there is going to be a lot of time skips in this beginning chapter, seeing as I doubt anyone wants to read about how he got used to the world and everything. As the year passed, Naruto and Percy stayed great friends and basically only talked to each other, seeing as the rest of the school seemed to be rich kids that were pretty stuck up. Though they did manage to find one more friend. He was a guy a bit younger than them who was named Grover. Grover was a kid who sadly had to use crutches for his entire life, making him slower than most of the other students. A fact that didn't bother either of them, as they all happily walked to each class at a pace Grover set. So, overall they all enjoyed school, at least while they spent time as a group. Meanwhile, the classes themselves left Percy frustrated as his ADHD and dyslexia kept bothering him. I don't know how you can stay on top of all of these classes. Percy complained to Naruto as the trio waited in line to get a spot on a bus for their museum field trip. For while both Grover and Percy were averaging its C's, Naruto was somehow able to regularly get A's. Yeah, honestly man, what is your secret? Grover asked. Naruto's mind quickly went to the fact that Naruto had a hidden clone regularly hiding in the library studying for several hours. So, well I just am good at studying, Naruto told them, not wanting to expose his secret powers. Really? Lucky bastard. Percy told Naruto, clearly not serious. Boy, it's not my fault. Both of you refused my offer to help you study to play games. Naruto told both of them with a glare, making both of the boys sheepishly look away from Naruto. After they did this, all of them noticed a few pieces of a sandwich hitting Grover in the back of the head. They all then heard giggles from the seat behind them, and saw Nancy and her friends laughing in their seat a bit away from them. A sight that made both Naruto and Percy clench their fists in rage. For this girl and her friends seemed to make it their goal to make life as miserable as possible to both Percy and Grover. Course, they never picked on Naruto, seeing as he made it clear what happened when someone tried. For the one thing he decided to bring back from his first childhood was his pranks. So, anyone who annoyed him would end up the target of a major prank. Of course, the pranks never could be pinned to anyone, but most people knew that it was Naruto who did them. A fact that made the blonde feared through the school. Though Naruto partially went back to pranking simply because this world frowned against issues being solved through a good old-fashioned fight. Still, even without fighting, Naruto was able to build a good enough reputation for most people not to bother Naruto and his friends at least while he was around, but it seems that Nancy was being braver than usual on this bus trip. It's okay. I like peanut butter. Grover mutters, trying to keep his two friends from exploding. Sadly for him, it had little success as Percy began to get out of his seat, only to be stopped by Grover pulling him back down into his seat by his arm. Don't do it, you already have 2 strikes. Grover told Percy seriously. Fine, I won't, but that doesn't mean Naruto won't, Percy tells Grover, who looks over to the other side of him, only to see that Naruto already threw a paper shuriken at a piece that was flying at Grover, making it lose its momentum. He then glared at Nancy, who couldn't help but gulp in fear. Nancy, you may wish to stop pestering my friends. After all, I have heard that there is a prankster running around our school, and I would hate for you to be the next target. Naruto told her with a smile that made Nancy feel a shiver of fear. Thankfully for her, Naruto decided he pushed the point enough and turned back around. After all, with the threat of becoming Naruto's next target, most people wouldn't dare disobey him. For they all clearly remember all of the horrible pranks the prank master somehow managed to pull off. So, needless to say, Nancy didn't bother their group anymore for the rest of the trip, letting them get back their conversations. You know, Naruto, you scare even me sometimes. Grover tells Naruto honestly right when they finally made it off of the bus. Then I am doing my job right. Naruto tells Grover with a smirk as he got off the bus and stretched his arms above his head. Meanwhile, Percy just shook his head at his friend's antics. After they got off the bus, it took a couple of minutes for the rest of the students to get off until Mr. Brunner got everyone organized enough to enter the museum. The group then began a tour that rather quickly led them to the Greek mythology section. An area that Mr. Brunner rather happily talked about each specific object they walked past. Something that of course was making it rather hard for the students to keep interest in what he was saying, but Naruto and a few other students actually were trying to keep listening. Of course, this time both Percy and Grover tried to keep their focus as well out of respect for their favorite teacher. Though they had to admit that it was rather hard to do while the rest of the class were happily chatting in their own personal groups. Though Mr. Brunner seemed to be ignoring these students in favor of continuing his lecture. But he did of course manage to turn around and stop talking, just as Percy growled out, "Shut up," at the groups talking around him. Mr. Jackson, can you please explain me what this style is depicting? Mr. Brunner asks. Yes, it is Kronos eating his children, right? Percy asked. Yes, now why did he do this? Well, he did this because he didn't want his kids to take over, so he tried to get rid of them, only to fail when Zeus made him barf them up. Percy told him, seeming to struggle to try and remember the full story. Yes, good job remembering this, Percy. Mr. Brunner told him with a smile that seemed to be sincere. So, what it is not like we will ever need to know this. I mean, really, how many people actually remember any of these Greek myths? Chelsea muttered quietly to her friends, who laughed a bit. Excellent question, Miss Bobofit. So, Percy, do you have any idea why it is important to know about Greek history? Mr. Brunner asked, causing Nancy to get embarrassed about being caught, while Mr. Brunner managed to put Percy on the spot again. Well, Percy began, but was clearly struggling to think of an answer that Mr. Brunner would like. Because those who forget history are more likely to repeat it. In this case, meaning if you try and solve your problems by shoving them out of the way, they will eventually come back to haunt you. Naruto caught in stopping Percy from having to answer, which made said boy look at his friend with gratitude showing in his eyes. Very wise of you, Mr. Uzumaki. Mr. Brunner told him with his smile still present, and the tour continued until they finally went outside to eat their lunch. So, all of the class moved outside of the museum where there were several benches. A spot that the class quickly filled an area with various groups of friends, splitting up to have their own privacy, well, except for one student apparently. For it seemed that Nancy didn't remember her last attempt at bothering their group. For Nancy quickly walks over to Grover and dumped her entire lunch upon his head with a smile on her face, and simply told him, "Oops." Now of course this got Grover's friends mad, but before either one of them could do anything, the water from a nearby fountain suddenly became tendrils and grabbed Nancy, before it dropped back into the fountain, taking her with it. An action that seemed to surprise everyone, but Nancy quickly recovered and began to blame Percy for pushing her. So, before anyone else could say anything otherwise, Ms. Dodds showed up behind them and ordered Percy to follow her, even though Grover tried to take the blame. So, Percy just looked at Grover calmly and told him not to worry before doing as his teacher told him. But as soon as Percy was out of sight, Grover began to freak out even more for some reason. Grover was so worried in fact that he didn't notice the fact that his second friend was not sitting by him anymore. As Percy followed Ms. Dodds, he couldn't help but wonder why she was bringing him so far away from the group just to punish him. Though his thoughts were soon stopped in favor of looking around the room that they finally stopped in. For the room was quite large and basically empty except for a few artifacts, and what looked to be scaffolding on one side of the room. Ms. Dodds, I don't think we are supposed to be in here. Percy told his teacher, figuring this was some renovation project the museum was doing, but when he looked for his teacher, he found out that she suddenly wasn't behind him anymore. He then began to look around the entire room for her, until he heard something hit the wooden scaffolding several feet above him. He then looked towards the noise and saw his teacher on top of the scaffolding glaring at him as if he was some sort of prey. "Ms. Dodds, how did you?" Percy began asking, shocked, but she quickly cut him off by asking, "Where is it?" in a tone of voice that seemed to be far too primal to be human. "Where is what?" Percy asked, only to watch as his teacher formed what looked to be bat wings and began to fly towards him. Now of course this scared Percy stiff, so all he could do was simply stare as this creature flew at him. "Tally ho, Percy." A voice suddenly called out to him, breaking him from his shock just in time for his reflexes caused him to catch something that was apparently thrown to him. Of course, when he looked at the pen he was confused by why someone gave it to him. He then looked over to who tossed it to him and saw Mr. Brunner in the doorway. "Click it, Percy," he told the still confused child, who did just that and watched as the pen was replaced with what looked to be a bronze sword appeared in its place. Of course he didn't have time to try and figure out what just happened, seeing as his teacher was getting close to him. So, he simply followed his instincts and swung the sword at the creature and watched as she turned into a golden dust. After this happened, he looked at the sword that was in his hand and found it to be a pen. He then looked around the room and found it to now be completely empty besides him. So, while still confused and shell-shocked, he walked back out of the museum while he tried to figure out what just happened. When he got out of the museum, he looked around and saw everyone eating, except for Nancy, who noticed him and quickly walked over to him. "I hope Mrs. Kerr gave you the punishment you deserve," she told him. "Who?" Percy asked dumbly. "Our teacher, idiot," she told Percy, confusing him even more, but before he could ask some questions, she left him to do something else, leaving him standing there trying to sort through the confusion himself. "Ah, Percy, thank you for finding my pen." Percy heard a voice tell him and looked to see Mr. Brunner looking at him, and then he looked back to the pen in his hand. Due to already being far too confused, Percy didn't question Mr. Brunner about what happened with his pen, and instead handed it over without saying a word. Percy then walked over to his friends, who looked at him worried, though Percy saw Naruto briefly glare at Mr. Brunner before looking back to him. But he didn't question that and instead simply ate what was left of his meal and tried to sort through his thoughts for the rest of the trip. Naruto Pav. When Ms. Dodds showed up, I instantly noticed some sort of weird energy around her that seemed to be full of hatred. Now, I was used to noticing the fact that all humans here still have a little bit of chakra, but I have always found it strange that Ms. Dodds was one of the few people so far that not only had a lot of chakra, but also seemed to have it always coated around them. Now of course this always put him on edge around her, but he always figured that it was just normal for some people in this new world, seeing as Mr. Brunner had a bit of chakra around his lower body as well. Though it was only now that Ms. Dodds' chakra was clearly showing foul intent as she brought my friend into the museum. I quickly decided to figure out this mystery. So, while Grover was freaking out beside me, I quickly used my speed to reach the top of the building before anyone noticed me. I then walked over to a skylight and saw an interesting sight. For when I looked and I saw Ms. Dodds transform into some sort of bat creature and flew towards Percy. Now of course I was going to help him, but right before I jumped into the fight, Mr. Brunner came and gave Percy a pen that somehow became a sword that Percy used to turn Ms. Dodds into what looked like metal sand. I have no idea what is going on here, but I am going to find out. I thought as I watched the event unfold, and also saw Mr. Brunner quickly moving away from the area, while Percy still seemed dazed, but safe. So I quickly used the cloaking jutsu that Jiraiya taught me during my training trip, and jumped into the building to follow the man. Though Mr. Brunner didn't stay inside for much longer, but instead made it outside, which for some reason seemed to calm down Grover when he saw it happen. Though what really was strange was that Mr. Brunner soon started using a bit of the chakra. He had to make what looked like a fog move around my entire class. Now I knew that whatever it was couldn't do anything that I would like, so I quickly backed off out of the mist's range. The mist then only lasted for a few seconds, but when it finally went away everyone looked fine. Though there happened to be a new woman standing around the area that seemed to be watching over all of the students. Of course, before I could think about this anymore, I saw Percy slowly coming back outside, so I went over to where I originally sat before releasing my jutsu, making sure that no one noticed. Of course I still watched as Mr. Brunner talked to Percy, and saw that he got the boy, who seemed dazed, to give up that strange pen, before sending him back to us. Now this brought even more of my attention to our crippled teacher. Well, it seems I have a prime suspect to use to figure out these strange events. I think glaring at the teacher, seeing as I have no idea just what kind of danger he was now in, especially if he had plans for his close friends. But I couldn't dwell on it right now, seeing as Percy soon sat by us, and the trip continued like nothing ever happened. Well, except for Percy now seemed to stay in his almost dazed-like state. Plus normal plus. Soon enough the trip ended and the students went back to have a normal school year, except for the fact that Percy kept asking everyone about Ms. Dodds, only to have them look at him strangely. For it seems that the woman that suddenly appeared within their group was always their math teacher, though Percy refused to believe that, and had some proof that it was a lie, seeing as Grover seemed to get nervous whenever he talked about it. Still, Naruto decided to say nothing about the events until he had more information. Eventually time passed and it was getting close to the finals, forcing Percy to stay in his room trying to study everything, while Naruto sat calmly on the other bed in the room. I will never remember all of these names. Percy complains, causing Naruto to chuckle. Well, that is what you get for waiting till the last minute to study. Naruto told his friend, who glared at him. Shut up, Mr. Never Study. You got me there, but my grades show I don't need to. What bastard. Percy, if you are having so much trouble that even the help I gave you wasn't enough, then you may want to try going directly to the source for information. Naruto told him. Directly to the source. You mean talk to Mr. Brunner? Percy asked, but saw Naruto look to be getting ready for bed. So, he simply decided to do just that and quickly went down to said man's classroom, hoping that he was still there. Still, I am worried about Percy, sir. Percy heard a voice that sounded like Grover come from said room, and quickly decided to listen to their conversation. Don't worry about him, he has survived and will make it till next year after these tests that you have to take as well. Mr. Brunner's voice told who he assumed was Grover. But what about the deadline? We know he does not need to worry about matters like that until he finds out more about his heritage. But he saw one of the kindly ones. Simply his imagination. Now go get some rest, you have a lot to do tomorrow. Don't remind me. Grover's voice mumbled, and then Percy heard movement and quickly rushed back to his room, just before the door opened up to show Grover waking towards his room as well. Though Percy had no idea that Grover didn't get too far before something sharp was placed against his neck, and he was forced to walk back into the room. Grover, what are you? Mr. Brunner began asking when he saw the boy come back in, only to see the blade of a small knife on his throat. Naruto, why are you doing this to your friend? Mr. Brunner asked with his eyes narrowed, clearly mad at Naruto, though the blonde paid no mind to this. I am done sneaking around for answers. You just said that my friend is going to be in danger thanks to your guy's secret. Now I suggest you tell me what I want before I have to do something that I really don't want to do. Naruto told them while releasing a small amount of Kai to show that he was serious. Kai equals killer intent. WW, what do you mean, NN Naruto? Grover asked, terrified, though Mr. Brunner just looked right at the boy's eyes for a moment before mumbling very well. Of course, when he said this, Naruto relaxed a bit and let Grover go. He then watched as Grover ran over to Mr. Brunner, somehow without needing his crutches. Sorry Grover, but I need the information to keep my friends safe, now talk. Naruto told Grover, ignoring the flinch the boy had when he didn't say he was a friend. Now let's talk, he added, looking at Mr. Brunner. Okay then Naruto, so what do you want to know then? Mr. Brunner asked with a neutral expression. Well, for starters, why are you both so interested in Percy? Naruto asks. He is a special kid and we are two members of a specific group that understand what he is and can help him. Okay, how about being more specific with your answers? Naruto told him, annoyed. Trust me, the less you know the safer both Percy and you will be. Mr. Brunner tells Naruto pleadingly. Frankly, I don't care. If you think that I will just give up, then I will just have to ask elsewhere. After all, I am sure that our Greek friend Ms. Dodds will answer me if she comes out of Hades' domain. Naruto told them with a shrug, then smirked when he saw both of them look shocked. H, how did you know that she went into Hades' domain? Grover asked, shocked. You just told me. I only had a hunch, seeing as my dad wanted me to study Greek mythology, and with our the teacher from a specific group happens to be obsessed with it. So, it is fair that this secret has something to do with Greek mythology. Naruto explains. Now we are finally getting somewhere with this talk. So, how about you tell me what these so-called myths have to do with Percy and me for real this time? Naruto tells them, spinning the blade in his hand to make sure they knew it was still there. This made Grover and Mr. Brunner look at each other for a moment before Mr. Brunner sighs. Fine. It seems we have no choice, we believe, but now know that both of you are what are known as demigods. Meaning that you are the child of a mortal and a god giving you powers normal humans could only imagine. Though your life will be filled with a lot more trouble, seeing as demigods are hunted. Hunted by all the monsters you have heard about in Greek mythology that roam around the world. So, we created a place to train people like you and to keep you safe, while demigods figure out just what they are. But as soon as a demigod begins to awaken their powers, the monsters begin to be able to smell you out. So, now that you know, you will be coming with us after this school year ends, and we will collect Percy when it is his time to be ready. Mr. Brunner told after deciding that the cat was out of the bag for Naruto anyways. Thank you for finally telling me the truth, and I will go to this so-called training ground, seeing as even Dad wants me to though. I will be waiting until Percy is ready as well, so that I can make sure that he is safe, if another creature comes to get him, seeing as last time was just too close. Now good night both of you. Naruto told them, then left both of them still slightly shocked. C.H. Shiren, sir, what should we do? Grover asked, still shocked by his friend's actions still. For now, nothing. Just go to bed and get ready for your tests. Mr. Brunner told him and watched as Grover did just that. He then lost himself in his own thoughts. That was the first time that a student has figured out anything before someone actually told him. I mean, even if he was told some things by his parent, he still shouldn't have been able to figure that much out already. Just what is here? I guess I should be asking who his parent is. After all, his father could have gotten a letter from the deity and passed it off as his own to keep her hidden. Making him a possible kid of Athena, though no, he is too violent to be one of her kids. Desu, did you come from and how are your skills so advanced already, Naruto? Chiron thought for once, stumped, which was rare seeing as he usually could tell who was from which deity by the way they acted. Seeing as each deity seemed to give certain traits every time to all of their kids for the most part. Though for Naruto he showed traits of several, but yet traits against them as well. Basically meaning that he is a mystery. Even to Chiron. Plus next day, after test plus. Finally, all of the testing was done and all the kids were glad, especially Percy, who could swear that he saw test questions swimming all around his vision. Though sadly he already knew that no matter how he did he would be done with this school, seeing as the school refused to have a troublemaker like him, ruining their good name. Now of course this upset him at first, but he soon felt better seeing as when Naruto found out he promised to go to whatever school Percy went to so he wouldn't feel lonely. Still, that was next year, and for now all Percy could think of was grabbing his stuff and getting onto the first bus he could that went towards his home. Of course, to his surprise, both of his friends also got on the same bus. So, he and Grover sat next to each other, and Naruto sat behind them just so they could talk during the ride. But Percy seemed to notice that Grover seemed a bit more nervous around Naruto for some reason. So, I guess I have to say goodbye to you now, Grover, seeing as the school you know. Percy told Grover sadly. You know, even with that, if you ever need me I will be there for you. Grover told Percy, looking completely serious. Thanks, Grover, Percy told the kid after biting back the comment he was going to say about him and Naruto, usually needing to help him and not the other way around. Though the quick glare Naruto gave him made him rethink his words after he realized what they would have done to his friend. But I don't even know if you are going to have time, I mean with you knowing the kindly ones after all. Percy told his friend and watched as his expression turned to horror for a moment. Ah, so you do know about them, don't you? I mean, I heard Ms. Dodds was one of them. Percy told him, knowing that he was onto something, and if he pushed hard enough he may get the information he wanted. Of course, what he missed was Grover quickly glancing over to Naruto for a moment, confused. For apparently Grover thought that he would add to the conversation, but Naruto didn't even look all that interested in the conversation. Jay, just take my card, if you need me just call for me. It is my summer address. Grover told Percy, giving him the crumpled up card. Camp half BL, Percy began, confused before Grover stopped him. Don't say it out loud. Grover told him quickly, but before Percy could ask why the bus stopped, and everyone had to get out seeing as the bus apparently had problems and for safety reasons they couldn't be on it. So, the group of friends stood on the corner of the road and simply watched as the bus driver tried to fix the bus. Though Percy wasn't, quickly lost interest in this and began looking around the area. He then saw 3 old ladies across the street that caught his eye more than the bus did. So, instead he watched as they made what looked to be a sock for a giant by knitting, until finally one of the ladies cut the yarn they were using with a loud click that Percy could swear to have been able to hear all the way across the street. After he stopped looking, he noticed that Grover finally had noticed them as well and turned pale. Percy, please tell me that they weren't looking at you. He told Percy, clearly freaked out. I think they were looking right at me, or maybe someone else. Yet they must have been looking at someone else. Grover mumbled but didn't sound any better. Still, they couldn't worry about it for long, seeing as the bus finally got started again, and they all got back on. For thankfully the bus driver was able to use all of his experience to fix the bus by kicking the bus's bumper and getting lucky. So, after a bit more time they finally reached their bus stop and got off the bus. Okay, guys, just wait for me here, I need to go find a restroom, and I will be back in a bit. Grover told them, then ran off to find a bathroom, seeing as he always had to go pee after he got nervous. Of course, Percy had a lot on his mind, and quickly decided that he didn't want to wait, so he called a taxi that both he and Naruto got into. Though Percy had no idea that Naruto also made a clone quickly while he was calling for the taxi, and had it go to the roof to keep an eye on their crippled friend, seeing as he wanted to make sure the kid stayed safe. For while he did just threaten him, Naruto still thought of him as a friend. He just lost some trust in him for going around their backs, but given how dangerous the info was, he figured he could forgive the cripple. Percy's HOYC. When the taxi reached Percy's house, both of the young teens got out and went into the house, seeing as they decided to hang out for a bit. But right when they got in, they were greeted with the sight of Gabe playing poker with his friends. Oh, so you are finally back, kid. Got any cash? Gabe instantly asked Percy when he saw him, then narrowed his eyes at Naruto. And what are you doing here, blah? Oh, so sorry, Mr. Gabe. I will make sure that calling you will be on the top of my list next time. It is just too bad I can't hang out with my friend today, but I guess I'll just have to call your friend instead. Naruto told him with an evil smirk that caused Gabe to worry a bit. For the last time Naruto told him this, the kid ended up calling the true owner of the place he worked at as a manager, and told him that Gabe never showed up for work. That of course made said guy have to suck up to the owner and get a second chance, and actually have to work for a while, just to get the owner to trust him again, before he could go back to his normal routine. Just thinking about that caused the man to shiver in disgust. That was one of the main reasons he made Naruto call in. No, it is fine, you can play today, I guess. Gabe quickly told Naruto, hoping that wouldn't happen again. Thank you. Naruto told him with his voice clearly falsely sweet, then walked upstairs with Percy, and of course Gabe completely forgot that he wanted money from Percy. Grover, man. So, I have no idea how I did it, but I managed to not have an entire section of the story that I thought I put in here. I don't know if I did, and just the save didn't work, or if I placed it somewhere else. Anyways, here it is. Okay guys, ready to go? Grover asks with a smile after walking out of the bathroom. But he quickly looked around and didn't see either of his friends. Oh come on. He mutters, smelling the air and realizing their smells were old. Don't blame Percy, he seems to still have a lot on his mind. Naruto tells Grover after dropping down quietly behind him. Whoa. Where did you come from? Grover asked, jumping a bit, but quickly shook off the surprise. No, never mind that. You know that you guys could be in danger, but yet you let him go by himself. Grover asked, already imagining Percy being attacked by some beast. Whoa, calm down Grover. Percy is my friend, there is no way I will let something happen to him. Naruto told him firmly. In fact I just was summoned just to make sure that you knew what happened. Don't worry, boss got Percy's safety covered. Naruto told him. What boss? Grover asked, seeing as he never knew Naruto worked. He then watched as Naruto seemed to lose form and seemed to fall apart in a dark substance that seemed to go into nearby shadows. What? Don't tell me, Grover muttered, wide-eyed. No, it doesn't matter right now. I just need to find them before they're sent to track something again. Percy's ROM. Man, I have no idea how you managed to do that to Gabe all the time. Percy told his friend, happy to see the bastard getting put in his place for once. It is simple, my friend. You just have to give him a reminder that he might not want to have something happen again and hold it over him. Naruto told him, causing Percy to laugh a bit, remembering how Gabe acted while he had to actually go to his job. That truly was a good stretch of time for him. Though he also remembered the dark smirk Naruto had watching the man's misery and the nightmares it caused him. Before they could talk anymore though, there was a knock on the door, and Percy's mother walked in. Hello Percy and Naruto, how was school? She asked with a kind smile on her face. Fine. They both told her, but Percy looked sad as he said it, which of course Sally noticed. Yes, they called me Percy, but don't worry, I am sure we will find a new school for you to go to. She told him, kindly trying to make him feel better, but Naruto saw that it didn't really have an effect, so he tried himself. Come on, that school sucked anyways. I mean, now we get to go somewhere else that will hopefully actually be a cooler place, well, as cool as school can get anyway. Naruto told him, and this of course brought a small smile onto Percy's face, as he couldn't help but laugh a bit. I guess. Percy mumbled out. After that, Sally decided to change the subject. Hey Percy, I hope it will cheer you up to hear that I managed to book a certain place on the beach for a while again. Sally told her son, which instantly perked him up. Really? When are we going? Percy asked, now actually excited, seeing as he always loved their beach trips. As soon as I get changed. She told him with a smile, then looked to Naruto. And you can come spend some time with us as well if you want, Naruto. She told the blonde, surprising him a bit. Are you sure? I mean, I don't want to mess up your bonding time. Naruto told them hesitantly. Come on man, you know that you could never do that. I mean, you know everyone already calls us basically brothers for how much we hang out with each other. Percy told his friend, actually thinking of Naruto as basically an extended part of his family, seeing as they knew each other for years. Then I will come with you guys and thanks. Naruto told them with a large smile and a small tear of joy that neither of the other two noticed. I finally know what having a family is like, even if it is only slightly an experience. Naruto thought happily and sat down and waited for Sally to get ready to go. And of course, that meant that soon enough they all were back downstairs ready to leave, but not before Gabe tried to stop them. Though that was quickly stopped by Naruto making a fake phone using his hand, causing the guy to sweat a bit, then let them go. Do we need to stop by your house to get your stuff? Sally asked as they all sat down in the vehicle. No, I'm good. I got it all covered. Naruto told her with a smirk while he patted his bag. For if anyone asked, he would just say that he felt like carrying a set or two of clothes with him. But really he always kept a few scrolls that stored a bunch of backup supplies. And I now think about the times he probably felt this with his friends in Konoha, but for the sake of making my life easier, I am not going to fix the line, seeing as it serves little purpose. At the BACH, all of the group spent the day doing various things together, and basically just enjoying the day until soon enough the day became night, and they all sat around a fire, simply enjoying a few marshmallows, while Naruto was lying down looking at the moon. Naruto, I will never understand why you like just looking at the moon so much. Percy told his friend, who just laughed. Yeah, well, you just don't truly understand how beautiful it is. Also, in some places I heard that it holds an incredible power. Naruto told him, not noticing Sally listening to the conversation rather closely. Now what does he mean by that? If he feels power from the moon, then could he be hers? No, I doubt she would break her oath, but then who is his parent? Sally thought, seeing as she already figured out that Naruto had to be like Percy, seeing as he never thought Percy was crazy when saying they saw strange things around. In fact, the only reason she kept her thoughts to herself about it was because she wanted her boy to stay with her for as long as possible. Though that didn't stop her from trying to figure out who Naruto's parent is. But soon enough they all decided to go into the nearby building and went to get some rest after their fun day. As it turns out, soon after they went in, clouds quickly formed and it began to downpour. +3 a.m. Everyone in the house was woken up by a loud knocking that was at the front door, and slowly walked to said door. Of course Percy got there first and was shocked to see that Grover was there without his crutches, and seeming to be out of breath. Ah, thank the gods. I have looked all over for you guys. We have to go now, it's coming fast. Grover told them, confusing both Naruto and Percy, but making Sally pale and quickly run to collect her keys. Naruto, Percy, grab your coats quick, we need to go for a trip now. She ordered the confused boys, who did as she asked and followed after her to the car, but as soon as she started driving, Percy finally decided to get some answers. Mom, what is going on? Percy asked, worried only to look over at Grover and notice that he didn't have shoes on, and seemed to have what looked like goat hooves. Well, what the heck is going on? Why do you have hoofs? Percy asked, shocked. Now is not the time, Percy, we have to get you guys out of here fast. We got a big group coming and they have some really nasty partners. Grover told him, managing to make Sally even paler if that was even possible. What is coming? Come on, tell me. Percy asked, then looked through the back window and managed to see the outline of something big in the shadows. Well, that was what Percy saw. Naruto, with his eyes being better trained, managed to see through more of the darkness and saw the bodies of several things that could only be called monsters, and narrowed his eyes at them. Damn, whatever those are, they can't be friendly. Naruto thought, then looked around the car. I must protect them though. Naruto thought with a growl, and quickly summoned a bag of ninja supplies to have at the ready. No one really noticed this, seeing as they were so terrified. They were either focused on the road or on the monsters. Soon enough, both Grover and Sally saw a sign that said pick your own strawberries, and seemed to relax if just a little bit, but a few seconds after that a massive bolt of lightning hit the car, causing it to tumble off the road, shaking up everyone inside. Ugh. All of them groaned at the same time as they took the force of the blow, but surprisingly remained mostly unharmed. After a bit of struggling, Percy managed to get outside through a door that wasn't red hot from lightning, and watched as his mother managed to get out by herself. He then turned to his friends and saw that Naruto also made it out of the car. Come on, we need to go, whatever beasts that are back there aren't something I want to meet. Percy told them, but watched as Naruto struggled to pull an unconscious Grover out of the car. Well, he did, until he heard what sounded like a stamp, and looked to see a massive bull-like creature running at him fast with a hand out ready to grab him. This caused Percy to try almost watch in slow motion as the hand came at him, but he couldn't will himself to think. Thankfully his mother was there and pushed him out of the way, but this made the bull creature grab her instead. Mom! Percy yelled, terrified as he watched her struggle to breath. Percy, get past the big tree, you will be safe after that. The Minotaur can't change speeds when he charges, just keep dogging and please live. She told him in between struggled breaths until the Minotaur squeezed on her neck, and she seemed to pop into a cloud of golden sparkles. Now of course this terrified and enraged Percy as he saw the other beasts also getting ready to go after him again. Now I must run. Percy subconsciously thought as it came closer to him, but instead of being run over when he was eventually caught up to, he somehow managed to jump over the Minotaur and land on its back. He then decided to stay on its back and grabbed onto one of its horns. But that only worked for so long until the beast slammed its horn at a tree and managed to break it, causing Percy to fall off and begin to run away again. Though when Percy saw the now enraged beast come at him again, something in him made him stand his ground, and he began to feel stronger somehow as he watched the beast coming at him. It sped towards him at an extremely fast speed, but when it came within a few meters of him, the creature seemed to slow down a fair bit. So, he waited till just the right moment and ducked under the one horn that was left. Percy then stabbed the horn into the beast's chest right where he assumed the heart would be. Finally, after a few moments of struggling, the Minotaur exploded into a large cloud of golden dust. His joy quickly faded as he saw a bunch more weird creatures charging at their position. Where fuck, Percy couldn't help but think as he tried to recover from his fight. Though a few seconds later he saw Naruto finally coming over with Grover over his shoulder. It seems he finally was able to get Grover out of the car, and fought the squirmy unconscious teen to be able to hold on to him. But when the blonde got close to Percy, the teen was shocked when he was handed his unconscious friend. Listen to your mother and get past that tree with go, boy. I know you must be tired, but just get to safety. Naruto ordered his friend as he grabbed two of his kunai and held them in, waiting for the creatures. But what about you? Percy began to ask, only for Naruto to yell at him to go. So, for some reason Percy listened, and with his last remaining strength, ran for the tree again, not noticing the fact that he was going faster than he ever did before, even with Grover in his arms. But his strength finally was gone as soon as he reached the tree, and Percy felt his consciousness quickly fade into black just like Grover. Meanwhile, Naruto was still awake and ready to fight the creatures that were soon upon him right after Percy began running. I will not let you bastards get another one of my precious people. Naruto growled out at them as he used his blades to block the claws of a creature that was now struggling to try and maul him, while several others tried to get past him. No. Naruto screamed outraged at the beasts, and quickly pushed the one on him away, and threw several kunai that had explosive seals attached to them around the creatures passing him, and activated them all as he jumped back in front of the group. He then watched as several of the creatures turned into dust while a few others survived. So, Naruto growled at each of the remaining monsters that now were all glaring at him. You tried to take more of my precious people. Suffer. Naruto growled out with his Kai becoming stronger as each second passed. Of course after a while this made even the monsters hesitate, but for some reason their eyes seemed to glazed over, and they rushed at the boy who was running at them with both of his blades glowing blue. The same blue color that started to surround even his body and saturate the air in wisps of pure energy. Percy. After Percy blacked out, several people came out to check what the commotion was, and Mr. Brunner was in the front of the group and frowned at what he saw. They are hurt but at least they are alive. Though what happened to Naruto? He thought, then heard what sounded like a stamp just outside of the boundary and paled a bit. Gods, please not a repeat of this. He thought, terrified, not even paying attention to a girl walking up to him. Chiron, sir, what should we do? She asked, waiting for him to tell them to do something as she watched. But as they watched, the group of explosions suddenly went off, killing many of the monsters. What the hell was that? A boy asked, surprised, keeping complete focus on the boy now, as he seemed to start to gain an unearthly glow. All groups help dispose of these monsters. Protect your fellow demigods in this fight. Chiron ordered, ignoring the boy's question. But soon watched as the very boy he wanted to protect ran down towards the monsters, making him want to yell for the boy to stop. Though he was soon shocked to see that his small blades that should have had no effect seemed to grow extensions of the blue light that already surrounded him, making the blades seem to be able to injure the monsters. A fact proven through several monsters quickly being killed after only a couple of seconds. Mr. Brunner was able to get over the shock of seeing this rather quickly, and began to look around the rest of his group, who turned out to be just as shocked as he was, so he quickly got them out of it, and gave the order to attack. Though by this time Naruto managed to already kill most of the enemies. In fact, only 2 of the smaller monsters were left in the view of the still enraged boy, showing an emotion that the campers never thought they would see: fear. Of course they didn't get to see this for long, because soon Naruto's blade pierced through each of their heads, destroying them as well. That was not only to protect my friends, but also to get payback for what you bastards did to Percy's mom. Naruto thought as he felt his burst of power leave him and somehow drain him of the rest of his energy, and dropped to the ground with the group standing just behind him. Grab them all and take them to the infirmary. Chiron ordered, wanting to get them healed as soon as possible, but as soon as the rest of his group left, he let his thoughts wander for just a moment before he too left. Naruto, I don't know whose child you are, but whoever there gave you enough power to become a very terrifying person. Wait, it couldn't be. I mean, he is so nice at times, but oh well, at least I didn't have to break the rule of all campers, make it to camp themselves. He thought, then pushed these thoughts to the side as he prepared to help heal the wounded. Both of the boys were still out cold on the beds they were placed on. Meanwhile, Grover woke up only an hour or 2 after he was brought in, and was quickly told what happened after he gave them his own report. Now, he was simply looking at his 2 friends with a slight frown on his face. This is all my fault. If I actually was there for them, they wouldn't have had to fight so hard just to get here. But of course, just like last time, I was practically useless while my friends tried to keep the monsters at bay. Grover mumbled, depressed. Grover, they're safe, that is all that matters. You got them both here with neither of them getting hurt too bad. Also, no one blames you for what happened last time, Grover. We are half-bloods, we all know that there's a chance for the monsters to get us. The short teenage girl told him. After all, while Grover and the other satyrs were in charge of finding demigods, they were by no means mean to be fighters. While they could do some things and handle themselves, most of the monster killing was tasted to the demigods, who were basically bred to fight them. Yay, I guess still I wish my luck was different for both of my searches. Annabeth, also don't say stuff like that, it is too horrible to even think about. Grover told the girl. Well, it would have been nice to not have had that have happened. It was fated to happen, thanks to the promise being broke. Also, don't even start about me being the one who talk about horrible things. We both know that you are always the pessimistic one, go boy. Annabeth told him, hitting him slightly on the shoulder, showing that she was teasing him. Yeah, I guess I can be a downer sometimes, and Annabeth, thanks. Grover told his friend, not feeling as bad anymore. Of course their talk was soon finished when they heard groans and saw that Naruto seemed to be starting to wake up, much to their surprise. Ugh, what hit me? Naruto groggily asked himself as he rubbed the sleep from his eyes. Well, from what we saw, it must have been around a dozen monsters. Annabeth told the groggy boy, who quickly was alert again after hearing the unexpected voice. Due to all of his ninja training, he was immediately cautious in both an unfamiliar place and by hearing someone you don't know. But he calmed down a bit after seeing Grover as well. After all, while he didn't trust the goat boy as much due to him lying to them, he still considered him a friend. After all, it was what the guy thought was best thing to do in order to help them. Oh man, I must have gotten too lazy during my training here then, if that is all that it took to stop me anyways. How long was I out for? Naruto asked while already planning how to get back to his old strength level. Even if he was able to train, he still got a bit weaker, just because he didn't really have a need to be strong during the new peaceful era, and because he wanted to make sure that no one questioned why he trained at a level that would kill a normal human. Even if his father did tell him not to worry about it, he is a ninja, caution is always present. You were out only for a few hours, though you should still be knocked out due to exhaustion and your healing injuries. Annabeth told him, clearly shocked that he was up, which made Naruto chuckle a bit. Gotta love the Uzumaki healing factor. Naruto told her, confusing the girl even more, though Grover seemed to just shrug off the strangeness that came with his friend. After all, he already experienced the fact that the boy was hiding some things. Anyways, Naruto, we need to get you to Chiron, seeing as he wanted to see both of you guys when you woke up. So, Annabeth, do you mind bringing him to the big house so I'll take care of Percy? Grover asked the confused girl, who agreed, though was even more confused why he didn't do it, seeing as they both knew that Grover was not anywhere close to being an actual healer, while she knew a few basics. Thank you for just doing it for me, Annabeth. You may be a better healer, but I already know that Naruto would have never left someone he doesn't know to be left alone with his down friend. He has always just been far too cautious. Grover, though, as you watched both of them leave. The gate show you see, Chiron and another unknown man were playing a card game while they sat around a table on the porch of the camp's main building, not really worrying about much. Though soon enough they noticed Naruto and Annabeth walking towards them, but did nothing but continue their game until the teens were right at the table. So, you wanted to see me, Mr. Brunner, or whoever you actually are? Naruto asked the wheelchair-bound man. Ah, yes, welcome, Naruto. I may not have expected you to be awake so soon, but I wanted to welcome you to the camp and give you the information you will need. Also, Mr. Brunner was just a cover name. You may call me Chiron, and my company here is called Mr. D, who I guess you could call the camp's head counselor. His real title is unknown to me and it doesn't really matter. Okay then, Chiron. We will talk information when Percy wakes up, so that I don't have to listen to it twice, but for now, deal me in wine, God. Naruto told said man as he sat down in an open chair. Of course, Mr. D just looked at the kid, slightly surprised for a moment before simply waving his hand at the deck that made several cards fly to Naruto. Well, now I don't have people figure out who I am without help. This is actually a nice surprise. Mr. D told Naruto truthfully. Really? That is surprising. I mean, your energy levels are far too high to be anything but a few things. Though seeing as you aren't sealed away, you could only be a god, and come on, you literally give away which one with the first letter. I mean, how many major male gods have a name that starts with D? Not to mention the smell of booze. Naruto explained to them. Ha, you aren't too bad, kid. Though I have to say that this has to be the first time anyone has ever mentioned my energy besides beings that are closer to nature, and even then they only can feel the natural energy that the world gives me when I am around them. Mr. D tells Naruto, shocking Chiron and Grover, seeing as they never saw him act so friendly with a demigod before. Well, you can thank the fact that all Uzumaki are natural energy sensors. Naruto told him with a proud smile, though didn't notice that yet again Mr. D seemed to become surprised before he yet again shrugged it off. Oh, really, and how is that possible? I mean, surely a family of humans that can detect godly power would have been noticed by at least one of the council members. Mr. D told him, clearly curious. Well, we are trained to sense this godly energy you are talking about, though it seems similar to the energy that is used by everyone where I was born, though we call it chakra. Naruto told him with a shrug. This is why it is an energy sense, seeing as the things Naruto senses aren't completely chakra, but is very similar, and thus can't really be called chakra. Oh, really? Mr. D answered, but said nothing else, confusing the shocked listeners even more as they saw that the chubby god seemed to get lost in his own thoughts. Of course, after seeing that the conversation was basically over, Chiron decided to quickly tell Naruto the basics he would need to know, like his sleeping area and where when to get food, before letting him wander a bit to figure out the camp, seeing as he refused a tour until Percy woke up as well. Of course, Naruto eventually got bored with just looking around, and quickly found a flat area that only had a few sparring dummies that was abandoned, and decided to do some training to relieve his boredom. Though sadly he didn't get to do too much before he heard people walking towards the field and turned around to see a group of teens walking towards the field. Of course, he didn't truly care too much, and was just about to get back to work until he noticed that all of the group seemed to converge around him. Hey, you wouldn't happen to be one of the new kids we got, would you? One of the more bulky males asked him. Yeah, I guess that would be me and my friend. Naruto told them with a shrug, then noticed all of the group gained an evil glint in their eyes. Oh, good. You see, we of the Aries cabin are always required to initiate any new campers here. He told Naruto, then chuckled darkly. Yay, I don't think Percy or me will be wanting to be initiated. Naruto told him, knowing that these campers were not going to be doing anything they would like. Of course, when he said this, he quickly noticed all of the people around him tense. Too bad it can't be just shrugged off, after all it is tradition. The lead boy told Naruto, then looked over his group. So, can a few of you help Blondie here come with us? He asked, and quickly two guys grabbed Naruto's arms, only to get the breath knocked out of them moments later by two precise jabs. Yeah, I don't think so. Naruto told them simply. PRR, get the brat. Their leader ordered them, and soon they all grabbed weapons and prepared to beat Naruto into submission. Though when Naruto saw this, he could only sigh and shrug while thinking, of course I get to deal with this already. Man, my luck is just as good as always. Plus few moments later, all of the group of his kids were laying on the ground, clearly sore from their beating. Man, you guys suck at fighting. I mean, seriously, you think the kids of the god of fighting would be smart enough to at least team up against a far stronger opponent? Naruto told them, disappointed with the fight. After all, they had no real idea how to fight as a group and instead basically attacked in turns. He couldn't help but hope that they were only so weak because they were the newest cabin members or something. After that, Naruto simply walked away from the area and went deeper into the forest to train in peace. Plus next day plus. Only a few hours after breakfast was served, Percy finally began to wake, and thanks to Grover rushing to tell Naruto as Annabeth watched Percy wake up completely. But Percy moaned as he finally felt the soreness he still had. Well, look at that, sleeping beauty is finally up. Naruto joked with Percy as he slowly came to realize he wasn't alone. Ugh, Naruto? Percy groggily asked. The one and only. Naruto told him with a smile. What happened? I mean, I remember ... mom, but after that nothing. And where exactly are we? Well, Percy, all I can say is that after you beat it, you apparently dragged me into camp and passed out. Naruto then managed to beat all the rest of the horde and made it into camp as well. As for where you are, this place is called Camp Half-Blood, Grover informed his friend. Camp Half-Blood? Why are we at your summer home? Percy asked, confused. Let's just get you to Chiron. He will explain everything to both you and a bit more of an explanation for Naruto, seeing as you are finally up. Grover told them, and then they all walked over to the big house where Chiron and Mr. D were both playing cards again. Yo, Chiron, Percy is finally up. Naruto told the centaur happily. Ah, I see. Well, now that both of you two are up, I guess I should finally explain more. Chiron told them, instantly getting their attention. Wait, Mr. Brunner? Percy asked, shocked. Well, yes, that was my alias at your school, Percy, but now that you are here, could you please call me by my proper name, Chiron? He told Percy kindly. Wait, you mean like that half-horse hero training guy, right? Percy asked, and Chiron is in his chair while he plays this game, just like in the book. Just to make this clear. Why yes, Percy, and you just gave me the perfect way to start bringing you up to speed. Chiron told him kindly. You see, Percy, my name is Chiron, not because my parents liked Greek mythology, but because the myths you knew are as unbelievable as they were originally thought to be. He added, then saw Percy looking confused and soon heard Naruto chuckle a bit. Basically, what he is saying is that he is the horse guy you were talking about, and that all of the Greek mythology we know of and probably more is true as well. Naruto explained. Gee, this one clearly isn't too bright. I prefer the blonde one, I mean at least he knows how to play the game. Mr. D told Chiron, clearly annoyed with Percy already. Wait. So you mean all that Greek stuff like gods are real? Percy asked, shocked, only for Naruto to nod. Okay, then I must have hit my head harder than I thought. I mean honestly, there is no way that those myths are true. I mean even I know that common science proves that it is impossible for them to be true. Percy told them, thinking that it was just his injuries making him hear this craziness. Wow, science so important, you know, in a few years this science of yours will be nothing but old texts. Mr. D told Percy. Well, clearly he isn't a fan of this time period science. Percy thought after Mr. D said this, but decided to move on from it. So, Mr. D, what does the D stand for? Percy asks, making Mr. D stop playing and look at the boy for a few seconds. Boy names have power, you will best remember that. All you need to know is to call me Mr. D or Sir if you want. Now Grover, come with me, we have a meeting to attend. Mr. D told him, then disappeared, leaving only the smell of wine when he left. And of course, Grover walked away soon after with a worried look on his face. No matter which one it is, they all seem to have at least a slight flair for theatrics. Chiron mumbles with an amused smile, then turned to Naruto and Percy. Don't worry about him, he doesn't really like being here ever since his father forced him to do it as a punishment. Chiron tells the two teens with a smile. He then gave a basic rundown of information before turning to Annabeth. Annabeth, now that they are both awake, would you mind giving them the basic rundown of camp? I have my archery class to go to. He asks, getting a nod from the girl. So, after he left, Percy and Naruto followed Annabeth while she began explaining how things were around camp as they took the tour, though of course Naruto was only half paying attention, seeing as he already looked around the camp himself. Though soon enough a huskier-looking girl walked up to their group looking over Naruto and Percy as if they were prey, and if Annabeth's reaction, which was tensing her fists, the girl, was clearly bad news. Clarice, Annabeth said angrily. Annabeth. Clarice mumbles, clearly just as viscous, but then looks over at Naruto and Percy. And hello, newbies. Are you ready for your initiation? She asked, confusing Percy, but Naruto already had a pretty good idea what she had planned for them. Percy, Naruto, this is Clarice, daughter of the god of war. Annabeth told them. Oh, I see. Percy mumbles while the girl narrows her eyes at him. Got a problem with that, newbie? No, Percy began to tell her before Naruto put his hand over his mouth to stop him from starting something. He wasn't trying to insult you, he was just mumbling his realization. Now if you don't mind, Annabeth-san was giving us a tour that we would like to continue. Naruto told her, trying to keep things peaceful. Oh, well, okay, then. Clarice answered, not really sure how to respond to someone so calm, seeing as just like her father, her aura usually made people want to fight, the aura was just weaker. Though she soon recovered from her surprise. Anyways, my cabin's initiation of newbies is part of their tour, so please allow me to do what my cabin always does. Claris told them and then tried to grab onto Percy, while her group members walked towards Naruto. Though what they didn't expect was for Naruto to grab her hand faster than she could react to. I suggest you don't try to grab my friends or me. Someone may get hurt. Naruto told them kindly, though they could see that he meant business just by looking into his eyes, which were cold enough to make them shiver a bit, even if they didn't know why. Of course the strange feeling caught Claris off guard, so instead of having to deal with it, she quickly threw a fist at Naruto, just to get him to stop doing whatever he was doing. Naruto easily dogged her fist and hit her with his own right to her stomach, with just enough force to knock the wind out of her. Listen Claris, and quit being a team and leave us alone, or else I will deal with you just like I had to do with the other group that tried to come after me. Naruto told her, then walked away, leaving Claris to be looked after by her teammates, while Percy and Annabeth went to catch up with him. How did you do that? You haven't even began your training yet. Annabeth asked, curious. Well Annabeth, just because I came here recently doesn't mean that I haven't trained before. You see, my father set me up with a way to always train and strongly suggested I did. By the way, he is my godly parent, by the way. Naruto explained to her, causing her to nod, clearly understanding him though look surprised as well. After she did this she seemed to get lost in her thoughts, and even stopped walking altogether. So, what are you thinking about, Annabeth? Percy asks the girl because of this. Of course she just smiled at him and turned to both of them. I am thinking that I want both of you on my team for capture the flag. She told them, confusing them both. After that Annabeth brought them to the Hermes' cabin to introduce them to their new cabin mates. When they made it there they saw that an older boy with a scar on his face was already standing there talking to someone until he noticed them. Oh hey Annabeth, who are these two? The boy asks their tour guide, and they watched as she blushed just by realizing he was focused on her, while Percy seemed to have a frown on his face. Well Luke, these two are your newest cabin members. Annabeth told him with a light blush staying on her face. Are they determined? A random voice asked from the cabin, and they all watched as she shook her head negatively, and they groaned. Hey come on guys, they still are our new group members, make sure they feel welcome. Luke told the cabin to get them to stop grumbling, then turned back to the group. And why don't you guys come in and we will find you a place to sleep and then head off to get some food. Luke told them with a kind smile. Both Naruto and Percy looked at each other for a moment before simply shrugging and entering the cabin. Thanks for bringing them, Annabeth, see you later. Luke told her as she turned to leave, then followed Percy and Naruto inside of the cabin. When they got inside the two friends saw just how much of a sad sight it truly was. For there were far too many people in this small cabin, making it seem like they were being pushed in like a pack of sardines. Well, I know that there isn't a lot of space, but both of you should be able to fit over there. Luke told them, pointing towards the cabin's back left corner. So, just put your stuff down for now, seeing as we will have to go to lunch very soon. Luke told them and watched as both of them put down the basic necessities they were given while on their tour. After that it was time to eat, so they followed the group as they left the cabin. Dining area. When their group reached the dining pavilion, Naruto and Percy saw all of the cabins reaching their own designated tables, and even saw several satyrs and tree nymphs coming from the woods to join the meal as well. Of course their thoughts on this were pushed to the side when they saw the food, seeing as they focused on filling up their plates with all of the delicious looking food they wanted. But after a couple of minutes both of them were surprised to see every camper move over to a fire pit near the center of the fire pit. Thankfully it seemed as if Luke noticed their confusion and walked over to them. Guys, here at Camp Half-Blood, at every meal we sacrifice part of our meals to the gods. Usually you do it in the name of your godly parent, though for our cabin, most of us give it to Hermes for allowing them to stay in his cabin. Luke explained as they all walked up to the fire just like the rest of the kids. To Hermes and my father. Whoever you may be. Naruto thought as he dumped a portion in and smelt ramen, as the food burned in what appeared to be a black flame, that surprised the few people that saw it. Of course Percy ended up thinking just about the same thing when he dropped his part in but smelt his mother's cookies and a hint of an ocean breeze. After that they sat down at their crowded table where there were decorated cups in front of each person, but nowhere to grab drinks. They're auto-filling cups, guys. Just say what you want to drink and it will appear. Luke quickly told them before going back to eating his own food, as the boys looked at their cups with wonder. Luke Percy told it, and was surprised to see it actually filled with it. Of course seeing this Naruto smirks and looks at his own cup. Green tea. Naruto told it and watched as it did the same for him, and seemed to heat the liquid as well, seeing as steam was coming off of the newly formed liquid. He then wasted no time taking a sip, and was pleasantly surprised to find out that it not only was at the perfect temperature, but also seemed to be a perfect blend. Man, these cups can make some good tea. Maybe I should see if they can make drinks that taste like Konoha's brands. Naruto thought curiously and decided that next time he would try to see just how far his choices were with the strange magical cups. Soon enough the meal was over, and the two friends followed along with their cabin again, as they went to do various things around camp. Plus days, later plus. Both Percy and Naruto got used to being at camp, while trying to see how good they were at the various activities the camp had. Now of course Naruto, who already had his ninja training, didn't find any of the camp activities difficult at all. Though for Percy, who was just a civilian, he struggled even with Naruto and Grover trying to help him. In fact, the only thing he seemed to be really good at right away was canoeing, which in his mind wasn't all that important. Of course this made him a bit disappointed and everyone saw it, even Luke, who tried to cheer him up by trying to tell him that he was probably son of Hermes, who is good at all things but master of none. Though even that wonderful attempt at cheering him up failed. So, Naruto, Percy, and Grover all went to the beach just to relax and hopefully cheer him up a bit, seeing as he always was happier near the water. So, how are you enjoying camp? Grover asked his friends, trying to break the silence. It's pretty cool, Naruto told him with a shrug. Yeah, I guess. Percy mumbles. Come on Percy, I know you are upset, but you have to try and enjoy yourself. He or she would have wanted you to, Naruto told his friend, who just looked even more depressed. Of course, after seeing this, Naruto quickly got up from the beach. Okay, get up Percy. Grover, we are going for a swim to cheer Percy up, Naruto told his friend. How, why? Percy asked, confused. Because you always seem to feel better when you are in water. So, that is what we are going to be doing for a while. Now hurry up you two, Naruto told them both while he quickly took off his t-shirt and the chainmail undershirt that he still always wears out of habit, leaving him only in his shorts. Nah, you guys go ahead, I really don't want to right now. Besides, do you have any idea what wet goat fur smells like? Trust me, you don't want that, Grover told them with a smile and simply got more comfortable while he looked up at the clouds. As for Percy, he really didn't feel like it and instead began to copy Grover. But that didn't last for too long, because when Naruto saw that, he quickly picked his friend up fireman style and chucked him into the water. There's no saying no for you Percy, Naruto told him with a laugh, then jumped in as well. Of course, after that Percy tried to catch the blonde and get back at him while the blonde swam away. They continued this until eventually Grover called them over with Annabeth and another girl by him. Come back guys, it is nearly time for Fudo and Annabeth, and her friend wants to talk to you as well, Grover told them with the second part as an afterthought. Well, looks like we have to go Percy, Naruto told his friend, and then began swimming back to shore, only to see that Percy somehow was faster than him while they swam. Fast enough that when he was only 2-3 RDS the way there, Percy already made it back to Grover. Well, it seems that Percy is good with stuff dealing with water at least, Naruto mumbled, but continued to make it all the way back to the beach and finally walked up to the group. Of course, he missed the fact that Annabeth's friend was staring at him with a slight blush on her face. Hey gals, what's up? Naruto asks the two of them with a friendly smile. Hi, the girl next to Annabeth muttered quietly. Hey guys, just wanted to see how you were doing so far. Also, don't mind Elizabeth here, she always gets shy around any guy that she thinks is cute, Annabeth told them, causing the girl to blush more. And Elizabeth whines, still pretty quiet. Also, would you guys mind asking Luke if he would team with us and capture the flag? Just make sure that he understands how important it is for your cabin to join us, Annabeth added, ignoring her cabin mate's quiet complaint. After saying this, she turned around and began walking away from the still confused boys, with her friend following after her a few seconds later, after giving a small wave for goodbye. Wait, so she came to us just to ask Luke something that she could ask himself? Percy asks his two friends, confused. She wants us to ask, seeing as we are the newbies, meaning that Luke might listen to us more out of what I can only consider pity for us, Naruto explained. Actually, you are not that far off. Though I don't think he will listen out of pity, probably will just because he heard that Annabeth wants him to and she probably can't do it herself because of her crush, Grover told them, but then quickly covered his mouth. Please don't tell her that I told you guys. She gets mad whenever anyone spreads that rumor, he added with air quotes as he said rumor. Dining HALL. After drying off from swimming, the group of teens caught up with their cabin and ate. Though this time, instead of being able to leave when their cabin was done, everyone had to wait for Mr. D to finish, seeing as he apparently had some announcements. Well campers, it is my duty to tell you a bunch of stuff, so listen up because I am only going to tell you once. Skipping, because unimportant. Oh, and this Friday will be our first capture the flag between whichever cabins won last time and some other cabin. That is all, Mr. D told everyone, who began to talk excitedly, and didn't even seem bothered by the fact that Mr. D both knew so little about his camp and was so uncaring. So, exactly is capture the flag at this camp? Percy asked Luke, curious, making the older teen smile, as his eyes showed some battle lust. That, Percy, is the best game we have on camp, Luke told him simply before leaving with the grin still on his face. What the hell does that mean? Naruto asked, confused, to Percy, who shrugged. They both then quickly found Grover and got their friend to explain what actually was going on.